Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Neither of us have a silver medal at the Olympic Games.
Yes. Well, she would have had a gold medal had they had a team event at the Olympics. But you know what? Alexa Knierim doesn't have her Olympic medal yet either. From the
right.
Elena, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you. Just fine.
Okay.
Working, enjoying my family life, my children, my mother. Everything is just great. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, This weekend we got to enjoy some figure skating with the First Channel Cup, and the pairs were really the star discipline for the entire weekend. Now, you told us every time that you've been on the show that Tamara Masvina was really going to retire this time. She was, really, seeing where she was taking stock of her life, wanted to enjoy her family. She's running a school. She really the top men's skater in Russia is in her school. 3 pairs here. What is Tamara's status?
Well, okay, 1992, back all the way like 30 years ago. Yeah, I'm done. I'm happy to first and second place. I'm good. But then the Olympics happened 2 years later. So she said, okay, well, 2 years, I can do this. And then it's just on and on and on. I think it's just part of her life, part of her nature. She cannot just quit. What is she going to do? She loves it so much. And she lives by doing, producing and creating and improving and just helping other people to become good and famous and successful. I think that's just her in general. I think she's not going to quit. I know she's trying to slow down because, of course, the age and just the Igor is gone now, no more husband. So I think she's trying to slow down. And I think after these 2 pair teams that she has now, maybe she will slow down. But then if you really look at the facts, she's getting more and more younger pair teams. But I think the thing is she's going to consult more than actually coach. So that I think Arthur, the guy who helps her, I think he's going to be more on the ice with the kids. And she's probably going to be a little bit more off the ice, sitting and watching and just directing the show. That's what I think,
Because she had a new pair here, right? We had seen both of these skaters before. Is this Yasmina and Valery? And so we had seen them separately, but this, I have to say, I think I must have missed some of their performances at the national championships this year. They were 4th, but I loved them. They had the Carmen short program. And it was funny because back in the day, Carmen was the music that was like, Carmen. But now that everyone's skating to more like slow, emotional, popular music, the Carmen seemed like a unique and innovative music choice. I thoroughly enjoyed their skating.
Yeah, they're amazing. I like a lot, and they haven't even been together that long. I think they're going to be a very good replacement for pair team number 1 and number 2 when they decide to either retire or move on to professional sports. So yeah, they're on their way. I like them a lot. Yeah.
No, were you ever Carmen?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
I think you could pull it off, Elena.
Well, but you know what? Those days are gone.
I mean, Nutcracker, I feel like you have more passion than just that. You could have really...
Well, my skaters sometimes go, oh, can I do it? And I'm like, nope. No, I just cannot imagine doing choreography for a younger generation, younger girl or boy using that music. I just feel like there's so many skaters who really tried and succeeded that trying it again is kind of just unfair. I think they all need to get much better to a high level to be able to actually skate this music to the level it's supposed to be. So, yeah.
What do you think about this Elvis program that Mishina and Galliamov are doing this season? The costume alone it's in your face. It is bold. It's different.
She looks so beautiful and in the white and silver and all that. He's like, whoa.
And I think it's the point. I think my coach Tamara, she loves red. You can ask her, she'll tell her red is her favorite color, red and a bunny hop. The 2 things that she loves. Or she always used to say, there's no program without a bunny hop. It's not a good program if there's no bunny hop. True. But I think she loves red. And actually her point was to make it so wow, so just gaining attention for the costume that I think it worked out great. Plus the guy is pretty good shape. He pulled it off pretty well. However, I heard a lot of comments from my American friends and skating friends who were like, whoa, that's just a little bit too much red. But I give him perfect 10 because he actually didn't worry. he didn't bother even to get confused or upset about it. He took it and he said, fine, I'll do it. And, you know, the gestures, it's pretty fun. I think it's really organic. It worked out. It wouldn't work for some other probably pair skater guys, but for him, it worked.
But what's interesting about Tamara also is, like, for instance, in your Olympic season, you had the very fun short program,
yes,
and then the very beautiful free skate. And she seems to still like that sort of pairing because the Mishina and Galliamov short program is so beautiful, and then the free skate is more fun. For me personally, I prefer the short program. I find the short program of theirs very special.
I love it. I love it. It's unique. I mean, the music is not new. Many skaters used it. It's very famous, but I think the way they skate to it is exactly their style, because they're really big on the ice. They cover the ice really well with their body types and just extensions and all. I agree with you. But, you know, Tamara likes to experiment. And I know that as a fact, because Dennis and I were victims of that couple of times when she wanted to, you know, let's try this. And oh, well, guess what? It didn't work out. I can name a couple of programs that it was just a complete disaster, but though it could have worked out, but it didn't for us. And as a matter of fact, the Olympic year, Tamara wanted us to skate to 2 French pieces of music because it's France. And when she suggested something for the long program, we said, absolutely not. And then she said, well, what do you want? We said, we want Nutcracker, want this specific piece. And she actually said, you know what? I'm not going to accept it. I'm not going to choreograph that. You're on your own. You know, because she didn't believe it was going to work out. But we said, no, this is it. We're going to do it. And we did it. She helped, of course she did. But we had someone else mostly doing choreography, and it worked out. So, you know, but like I said, she likes to do this kind of thing. She likes to try something new and different.
Has she agreed with you that the Nutcracker was the right choice? Yeah.
Eventually, yes. Eventually, because, you know, the music she suggested, it was really, I don't, you know, if you remember 1991 season, we had this really weird music we skated to, and the program was too fast, and there were no slow parts really to breathe, to collect yourself. And we failed multiple times because it's just, I couldn't handle that type of music. But it was nice, it was fun, it was interesting, it was different, and it turned out to be a disaster. So that's why we told her, no, next year, it's Olympic year, we make the team, we want to do what works for us. And she initially said no, but then she agreed, and we compromised. We did the French short, fun, but then the long program was more mature and kind of what we felt like it was more like us. And I think it was the right decision for everyone at that point.
And what's so interesting to me is back then in the short program, there was no throw. Right?
Yeah.
That's going back and rewatching that, I always have to remind myself that I won't see any throws in that program. However, I was going to ask you both what you feel, because isn't there this new short program requirement where they have to do that sort of step work sequence across the rink or something like that? Or am I making that up?
I don't know. I really don't follow the rules for pair skating, but I noticed that most of the pair teams go straight. However, I don't think it's limited. I think the pattern, it doesn't matter. I think it's pretty much as singles, because actually I probably saw someone not going completely straight line. Like our footwork back in 1992 was a joke. Like today, if you do it today, there'll be no level, because it was bunny hop, toe pick, small hawk, and maybe half twizzle or something like that, you know. But today, when you watch, it's amazing what they do. And it's cool, it's great, it's wonderful. But sometimes, in my opinion, it's a little bit too much, takes attention away from power and speed, because there's certain turns you cannot do fast, specifically pairs. Dance is a different story, but pair teams, I give them a gold medal just for doing those level 4 step sequences, because it's just insane what they're doing. Yeah.
How much time did Tamara have you spend on just basic stroking?
We did a lot. I mean, every time, basically the way training was structured, June is a month of dry land training. So there's no ice. Ice was melted. We would go mountains and a dry land like Black Sea and train there, come back. And I think first couple of weeks, always there was just skating for at least an hour and a half a day. And I used to hate it with a passion, because I was like, oh, let's jump, let's do this. But now when I look back, I think that was so smart, because that was the time to actually learn new things and improve your skating skills. And I really feel like if I paid more attention to that when I was 14 and on, that would have helped me a lot with skating skills later in life when I became a high-level skater. But we did pay a lot of attention. I remember Tamara specifically would come up with new sequences and new turns and new level of stroking. It was really fun. If I was offered that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, let me do this. It's so fun. But back in the day, it seemed boring, you know.
I have to say, I do think that working on stroking many times a week and then Pilates has helped my jumping and the overall.
Yeah. Strength. I mean, skating skills, what do you do? Where do you go without skating skills? How can you jump? How can you spin? And this is something I talk to my students all the time. If you cannot skate, you're done. You cannot go anywhere. You cannot learn anything. Loop, salchow, you name it, axel, spins. How can you do it all if you don't know your edges? If you don't know how to use those edges? That's why I think, personally for me, a lack of skating skills played a huge role in my skating when I turned higher level skater. Because I mean, I really regret not attending all the classes they were offered when I was even younger, because, you know, Russian system, you have those classes offered. You can come and join when I was younger, but I did everything I could to avoid it, which is definitely a mistake. Yeah, I was.
And something magic must be happening in St. Petersburg also with all of the solo jumping. I couldn't believe the combinations we were seeing. Many triple loops. Someone I think did like the triple salto, double axel, like from all of them, they just upped the ante. Again, in a season where we've seen a lot of people winning with side-by-side doubles.
Yes.
You saw, especially in Tamara's pairs here, just incredible singles elements. But I was curious to ask you, because I'm always confused as a viewer, the throw jumps, what the male part could be doing incorrectly potentially that makes it more difficult for the woman, because we always see the woman land and then it sort of becomes, oh, she fell on it. But I'm just curious, because some of these throw jumps are so incredibly high. Is it that some are too high or it's too fast? Could you speak a little to how it go wrong from the male standpoint?
Well, the man, from my standpoint, if the guy doesn't get out of the way, because the guy has to let you just go through and do the jump and just support your takeoff, not change the direction or anything. Even the height can be done by the guy, but you don't want to do too much. And I think sometimes if too much adrenaline in your system and you really push the girl too far and she's not used to the rotation, because timing will change if that's higher or lower, either way, or speed if they didn't get enough speed, because everything has to be automatic at that point. Everything has to be exactly the same, because when you're stressed, things have tendency to change, and that is when things go south, because you know it, you go into it, you know exactly what's going on. And if you're fresh, your mind and your legs are still fresh, you might correct and land. But if you know taking off, this is not going well, next thing you know, you have to either struggle and land, which causes basically waste of your energy that you need later, or basically a fall or hands down or abrupt stop like we watched today. I saw couple of falls on throws. So, like if speaking of me, for Dennis always told me, just trust me. And that was true, because, I just had to really let him do it, because I was always stressed about it. And whoosh, if I just relaxed and listened to his body language, because it's, you work together, I would land. It would be possibly impossible to mess it up. In some other cases, like today when I watched, Boikova and Kozlovskii, they have trouble that one throw over and over. And to me, what it looks honestly, just my opinion, that she sits on his arms for too long. And by the time she takes off, it's just kind of uncomfortable. It doesn't look like there's an explosion. It just looks like it's a lift, and that's it. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think the technique is different. And maybe that's what they're trying to do. Maybe it works for them. But when she falls, she basically falls exactly the same way. It's never different. It's step to the left and on her left hip. Right. So maybe there's some technique, maybe some issues they're trying to overcome by selecting this type of technique, but it's hard to tell. But yes, mostly it's change of timing and too much adrenaline, which results in all the mistakes, as we know.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you talked to Tamara at all about kind of the motivation or the mindset? Because I would say that her pairs have really moved forward, when a lot of the skaters who were in the Olympic conversation for the last couple of seems like they're struggling, which we could understand. It's a post-Olympic year and they're not competing internationally. So I guess how has Tamara pushed these teams forward to improve?
I think she actually works with very mature athletes, and they know what they want. They know what they want, they know why they're there, because it's a lot of work today, specifically these days when there's no future. It's all internal. How do you manage this? I mean, it's hard as it is when you compete, you go into the Olympics, it's hard as it is to keep it up. But now it's just one of the things, maturity of her athletes, even the younger generation. I think the way Tamara runs her business, basically she talks to them and she says, hey, you're here to work. Why are you here? You're here to improve. Then why struggle? Back in the day, she used to tell me, you're already here. Have fun, enjoy the training. As hard as it is, you still can find some joy in the process. So I think it's part of her strength, actually, to be such a great motivator, such a great teacher, a philosopher, so to speak, because she is a psychologist at the same time. She is amazing. And I think part of it, that's her motivation, because look at me. I'm Tamara, I'm 81, and I'm still this and that. I'm still alive. I'm still kicking and screaming, and I'm skating. I think it's part of her nature. She's very positive. She's never, ever, ever being negative. I mean, I can give you tons of examples from back in the day, but she is always your team leader. And I think that's what helps her with her students.
How does she handle mistakes, like in practice and in competition? Because some coaches, like Eteri, you always see they make the big gestures if someone makes a fall. I know Galina, I know exactly what she would have said if I made a mistake on anything in practice, whatnot. How does Tamara kind of handle that?
Well, back in the day, there was never screaming, never. She yelled at me twice in my entire years with her, fully deserved, totally. But unless you get rude or mouthy, then she will kind of get stern and say something to you. But honestly, for mistakes, as long as you're trying and it's just not working out, basically, okay, stop. Let's think what's not working. Let's go back. Let's break it down. Let's go through parts and pieces. Boom, it works. But it never negative, never diminishing, never kind of putting you down and saying, oh, what are you doing? This is stupid. This. Never. Absolutely never. Very intelligent approach. Her and Mission, both of them. It's like, wow, great couple. Because I work with both, and both of them are amazing people, amazing philosophers and doctors, and you name it, and mother and father figures. So
and when you were competing, did you ever have a season where you were repeating programs?
I don't think so. No, we did one program when Dennis and I started skating together. We did the first program that we had. We did it 2 years in a row because we were still learning, and we just did not have enough time to create a new long. Short was always new every season.
I'm just curious because now, of course, we've seen Tarasova and Morozov do this same free skate over and over again. And we know sometimes that they struggle with their performance energy and sort of focus at times. I would just think as a performer, that must become so monotonous. It would be hard for me, I think, personally, to be inspired to perform the same piece yet again.
Well, unless you change the routine a little bit, put new things on, new elements, that's different. But in their case, it's the same thing. And I caught myself thinking about, since I finally got to watch them, because for some reason I couldn't watch half of the competition. I watched them and they were not that bad, but it's just so, the same kind of thing. There's nothing new, basically. Right. And they probably manage because, they're mature, they're professionals, and they know they have to. But in my opinion, I think they're kind of feeling like, it's about time, because unfortunately the basically lack of consistency, I think, has always been their problem. And I'm super proud of them for the Olympics, because they were amazing at the Olympics and they fully deserved what they got. It was like never before awesome. But I think they're hitting the roof because now she's married, and I'm trying to think how I would feel if I was in their shoes. Right. They're older. There's nothing you can do about it. And it's either time to continue and hurt yourself possibly and feel like I cannot do this anymore. I mean, every day, twice a day, the triple this and triple that. I cannot do this. It's hard. And I think maybe mentally they're getting to the point when they start thinking, okay, what do we do now? We have this direction. We can do multiple beautiful shows that are available in Russia to Russian skaters. It's every day could be something. Or, of course, she's married and maybe it's time to start family. I think they're just getting to that point when they really need to figure out how much strength and inspiration they have inside of them, and motivation for that matter, to continue this terrible workout, because every practice becomes a struggle because it's hard with age. I know that myself because that's how it works. By the time I quit in 2000, even stars on ice shows were becoming more and more difficult because the back hurts, this hurts, the Advil you have to take every day, and you cannot go to bed late. You have to do this, and that if you want to be your best. And this kind of life cannot last forever without consequences.
With this new pair coming up, and we see Boikova and we see Galliamov and stuff upping their technical ante, I think it only gets harder for them from here to stay in.
Specifically, psychologically, because they see it, they know it. And I think they just probably going to finish the season and probably, just my opinion, and probably start thinking, okay, what's next? Because they've done it all. They're amazing. They had such a great career. Could it be better? Absolutely. But you know what? We're all great, we're all wonderful, and we do as much as we can. It's not like, they were not good enough. They were amazing, in my opinion. So that if they decide to end it, that's perfect, because, you go when you're on top. You don't want to go when you're slowly taking that slope down, because that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
How about Sasha Boikova and Dima Kozlovskii? They're doing the side-by-side triple loops in the short program, but they don't do it in the free, which I think is so interesting. They've been so consistent at it in the actually, then you're training an extra triple for amount of time. Do you think they'll put it in the free? I wonder what the strategy is there.
I think next year they probably will, because I think the triple loop looks amazing. It's so in unison. It's like, how is it possible? So close together and so perfect. But I think their strategy is to get short program as much ahead of everybody else, because they have tendency sometimes to miss a throw. So, I think it's their strategy this year. Make short amazing, and then just do the best they can in long. So even if something happens in the long, they still have a layer of points from the short program. But I think not next year, if Russians are allowed to compete somewhere, I think they will put triple loop in the program, in the long program, of course. Yeah.
And it was really exciting, I think, at Nationals to see those two teams be so close together when they train together. That has to be a plus for Tamara in terms of the motivation.
Yeah, I've been there, I've done that. Mishkutyonok and Dmitriev and us, that was the same thing. It was not easy.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about, I wanted to ask you if you know about Pavel Slusharenko, who coaches with Eteri. He obviously coaches Tarasova and Morozov. I know we see Trankov working with them, but he's really the coach. So what do you know about him?
Not much. I know that I never met him, of course. He's probably from different generation. But he works with Tukova, the lady who was there when I was beginning my career with my first partner. Her and her husband started the whole thing in that area. They were amazing married couple, pair coaches, just like Tamara and Igor. And they were very successful even back in the day, late 90s, early 2000. They were great. But now she's older. But I think her experience helps him to actually do things correctly. Because yes, he's young and wonderful, this and that. But you need to have someone like Tamara, for example, your mentor, who would actually help you to guide, sometimes not a triple jump, not a quadruple lutz or something, but how to manage your team, how to manage the whole bunch of young skaters. He has got a lot of young pairs. And I know he's very determined, very creative, uses his team really well. And I know a lot of my Russian friends who live in the United States, and they teach pairs. They have very high opinion on him and his work. He's really, he's possibly a future of Russian pair skating, because he's got ice available to him and coaches available. Basically, he has everything available to him to become successful, including skaters, because, you have to have the material. And I think because his name is pretty famous at this point, I think he's going to gain a lot of good skaters, and basically his career is going to take off, and he probably will be the best in, I don't know, maybe not next Olympics, but maybe after. So.
No, explain Russian men to us, because they have so much talent, but these men, you don't know really which one is going to be consistent from competition to competition. What is going on here?
Today, I think today was a disaster. I watched, and it was I think only Dmitry Aliyev, right? I think he won the long, but his short was what happened? I think it's just pressure. And maybe lack of training, because I know if you tell a girl, even from my experience, you tell a girl, run through. Yes, ma'am. Okay. tell a boy run through, so I think run throughs are always difficult, but I think in general, girls are more disciplined to do it. And, you just have to believe that it will get easier with time. And also, I think, honestly, today's competition, I think what really happened, I think holidays got in the way of training because it's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's a lot of probably partying and family time. And I think everyone looked like they were not quite as sharp as nationals, because nationals, first two places were pretty good and they even scored the same, But today, pretty much every skater made mistakes, and some of those mistakes were awful. Like if you heard Tatiana Tarasova doing commentating, she was pretty straightforward about it. And I agree with her in every single subject. She was pretty good, but I think, like I said, it's lack of training, not probably intentionally, but like, I just don't want to do this run through. Or maybe if coach says 2 run throughs today, and you get this, I don't want to do it. I think that's what it is, because technically they're all amazing. They all can do 4 or 5 quadruple jumps in the program. And today was not the day, because I think it's just the training was not pretty much the same. And I think this event was not exactly the competition event. It's kind of like a show kind of competition. And I think your responsibility, they probably didn't feel as much responsibilities for it, though it was a team event, but it's still, I don't know how to explain this, but it's probably more relaxed. And when you're more relaxed, you're probably not going for 100%. So that's what I think. But as for perfect example would be Michael Kolyada, my absolutely favorite skater in the world, the most beautiful, the most gorgeous ballet person and all. And watching him, I just wonder what happened, because this guy could have been the best in the world if he could just keep up with training, probably in mental thing, maybe a psychologist or something, because he was amazing a couple of years ago. I remember I watched videos with him doing quad lats like it's a single. Poof, sure, whatever. Yeah. But then somehow year after year, either more pressure or lack of training, and he was hurt, he was injured, he had some sinus infections and stuff like that. So I think that's what is going on with him. So,
because even with Dmitry, you see that kind of short program and you think, oh, he's a mess. Where's the technique? What's happening? And then for him to turn around today and do those 3 easy quads at the beginning of the program, then you realize, oh, this probably is not a technical issue. They clearly
absolutely. You know what I think it is? I think when you train, like train, and then there's holidays, like probably 3 weeks of doing half of what you normally do, you get out of your routine and it's going to catch up with you one day or the other. And probably yesterday's short program was the day when that lack of volume of the work that you have to do, he didn't do, caught up with him. And I think pretty much everyone today, well, girls were different. Some girls were absolutely gorgeous and amazing, but even pair teams, if you watch the pairs, no one was perfectly clean. So I think it's the same issue. It's just a lack of routine, that hard work that you do, getting ready for nationals, for example. And then you relax, and before you know it, you're not the same. I can give you an example. Olympics for us, we were basically on top of a form. Then we came home and we had world championships. And because we relaxed a little bit and training was not the same, because it was, you go here, you have to speak there, you have to meet these people. It was like, because we were just silver medalists. And when we got to world championships, it did it. I was not as confident because I knew I did not do the training I needed. And I think it's pretty much the same for the athletes we watched yesterday and today, pretty much the same. Yeah.
So you mentioned Tarasova. I was wondering, how tough is she as a commentator compared to like Dick Button? Who is more intimidating if you know they're going to be critiquing him?
Well, Tarasova, my opinion, Tarasova is a little bit more kind overall.
Okay.
Well, Dick Button can be pretty straightforward. He was, he told me at some point personally, if you're not going to learn how to point those toes, you will never win anything. I said, yes, sir. Spent a long time working on that. Then we'll win the world championships, the professional. And he's like, see, I told you so. So that was pretty cute. But yes, his comments towards some skaters can be really abrupt, like specifically some skaters, I would say. I wouldn't name anyone specifically, but, her foot is terrible, or if she turned out that foot or pointed that toe. So basically he's straight. Tatiana Tarasova is more emotional. She basically says as she sees it, but it's because she's so into it. She's so passionate about it. So her comments can be like, her comments yesterday and today were pretty straightforward. Like, you cannot skate like this. Team event, no team event, you can't skate like this. And it's true. I mean, yeah, it's a rough thing to hear for Ilia, for example, but that's true. Hey, what are you doing? You're here, you cannot really let your team down like this. What? The other thing, that the little girl fell on her hip that she couldn't get up, that's different. You know, she probably hit that hip so hard that I can only imagine that sharp pain at that specific moment. But in his case, Tatiana Tarasova was exactly right on the money. You can't skate like this. Or who else she said? She made a comment about Dmitry Aliyev today. She said something like, oh, you cannot fall on triple loop. That's ridiculous, basically, because if you can land 3 quads in combinations, you just cannot fall on triple loop. Correct. Why? Because he probably relaxed and kind of didn't pay attention, and poof, before you know it, you're on the ground. So she can be pretty rough, but I think it comes from love for all the skaters and her desire to make everyone better, because she can definitely do that. You know, she's so knowledgeable and so experienced that that's where she comes from, not because she's mean.
I was also curious to get some of your information on what sort of those interview kind of comments were with Trenkov and Yagudin, like sort of right as they came off the ice. Was it just in general about how they felt about the performance, or some of the skaters seemed to be very not interested in those?
I can tell you why, because, well, of course, I watched the whole thing. Those comments were meant to be cute or unexpected or something. And some skaters were, you're still there, and your brain cannot capture either a little bit of sarcasm or a little bit of humor. So they were like, well, I don't know, you know? Like, Tuktamysheva was like, what was that? At some point, because one of them said something to her, and she's like, what? It's like, it was obvious they tried so hard to make it fun for the audience, make it fun for other people, but younger skaters specifically felt intimidated because it's life, and you just finished your long program. You have no idea what's going on. You still have a life, you know, because you're breathing heavily. And I think what they tried to do did not quite function well. I thought about it myself, but like, oh my God, that was not a good question to ask, because some of those questions were just okay. And but I mean, you know, they tried to make things different for the teams, because it was not easy for anyone to, you know, at this point, everybody should be going to European Championships, and all the skaters deserve to go there, but they didn't go. So, you know, it's still, as much as Russian Federation is trying to create all these new events and money thrown, like I just checked how much they received. I was like, okay, you know, but still, it's tough. And I think this event was really amazing in Moscow. Both days, the arena was packed. There was not even one empty seat. So, you know, that's why all this Alexei and everybody else trying to make it fun for everyone. Because at this point, well, we have nothing to lose. Russia is isolated. And what we're trying to do these days is to keep skaters motivated and keep them going, just in case if all those restrictions ever drop, we're still on top of the game. You know, we don't want to lose skaters because of this, because we have the whole bunch of skaters who can quit and say, I'm done. But we want them, because eventually we will go somewhere. We will need really high-level skaters.
Now, I want to ask you about Petr Gumenik, because he was a Mishina skater who is in Tamara's school now with one of the coaches, you know, that works in Tamara's school. He tried the quad lutz, which didn't work out for him here, but he's been training it. Yes. What do you think of him? Because he reminds me a little bit of Kolyada. He has some of that style.
Beautiful. Yeah, and he's charming. But listen, he was very young when Tamara took him under her wing, because Tamara and his coach are very close together. They're close relationship. And Tamara helped him for a while. But then she said, look, Tamara, you're not a singles coach. No, stop. So basically, that's when she completely let him go. And I think Mishina took over for a while. But then the boy was not progressing as much as his parents probably thought. I don't know the details, but I've heard and I've read. And then that's when he skates with Tamara's teams, with her in her school. But his main coach is definitely not Tamara. Tamara's just a mentor to her and probably to him. And he's amazing for that height. He stretched within last couple of years, and it's amazing that he actually can hold those long legs together and land like nationals. He was amazing. The jump event he was amazing. This event, of course, he was a little bit off because, I mean, how long can you stay on top of your form? It's hard. Plus, I think he's tall. That's definitely not easy. I know that because if you really look at pair skating, the smaller the girl, the easier it is to participate the whole long program, because if the girl is almost the same size as the guy, then it becomes a problem. And with boys still growing, I think it's his biggest problem right now. But I think at this point, he's probably, 18, 19, he probably stopped growing. And Tatiana Tarasova, I think, made a very interesting comment today about him specifically, that it looks like he kindly put matured, like basically implying that he gained a little bit of weight, which is normal because, you know, a guy has to mature. A guy cannot stay pencil size. A guy will grow muscle and mature as guys do at a certain age. And I think for guys, it's a little bit later, like 18, 19, 21, they start really building the muscle. You know, I can give you an example. When Dennis and I started skating together, he was thin, skinny. By age of 20, 21 and on, all of a sudden, he turned into this wolf. You know, same happened to Sergei Grinkov, so to speak. You know, as much we miss him so much. When he was younger, he was very, very thin. And then with time, all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, it's amazing. He matured, he grew muscle, and he turned into this awesome athlete. And I think with Gumenik, is the same thing is happening because he was thin initially, and it was easier to squeeze and rotate. But now with a little bit of mass on him, the good thing is that will give him more strength. He will learn how to use this, you know, this skill, because I think a little bit of weight is not a problem as long as you train yourself to handle it correctly. But to me, he looked just the same, maybe a little bit thicker, but it's good. It's good because it's strength in a way.
How about Semenenko? I wonder, he doesn't have the same lines as, you know, Gumenik or Kolya. Does Misha not require as much ballet training because he's from the same school as Moskvina, but his men can get a little sloppy looking compared to others?
I think he requires that, but he also realizes there are different type of skaters. You cannot make someone who is grotesque type of skater who will do, you know, fun stuff and cool stuff. You cannot make that person a ballet dancer. And I think Mission's take on this, okay, we work with what we have. But yet I think over time he got better, because 2 years ago his landings were absolutely all the way down, nose down. I thought to myself, no one correct this kid. But apparently it's just an issue. He's got this issue, and I think it got corrected grandly. So this season he looks a lot better. But to answer your question about, I think Mission requires the same as Tamara. I think it's the same. You have to be graceful. They have ballet teacher probably. It's just, it's easier to, at this point, when the person, the athlete is this age, it's easier to work with what you have versus, okay, let's break it down and make him a nutcracker, because he can't. I mean, same with Michael Kolyada. You can't make him do what Semenenko does. I mean, it's not going to work. It's going to look awkward, and it will require a lot more energy from Michael to try to be that versus do something that works for him. You know, it's just my opinion. So, yeah.
The other one I have to say that I was really impressed with here was Kovalev. I don't know. I liked him at nationals. Also, he has such like a broad, open position to him, and sort of creates less pictures. But when he does, they're very specific. I really like that. And again, I don't know that Plushenko is necessarily pushing that part of the training. I don't know if they just came with those skills early on, and that's how that happens, or what. But I enjoyed his program because some of the men, it's always interesting to watch a Russian men's competition because again, there's such a variety. You never know what you're going to get. But he really stood out to me as a really, especially in the free skate, like just sort of like really nice presence. And it would be interesting to me, whereas I think we know without a doubt these four Russian pairs could have easily won everything on the Grand Prix this season, I think without a problem. I'm very curious where some of these men sort of would have fit in at any given time in the international scene.
Well, not all of them, but definitely Semenenko probably would. The younger generation, they still have a lot of work to do on consistency and just I think, again, every skater's problem, mine as well, when I skated, run-throughs. Run-through has to be like eating breakfast, like having a cup of coffee. You have to do it. And I think it's a fear of that holds skaters back sometimes, because no one likes to suffer. It's hard. It is really hard, specifically in long program. You have to learn this, and that. And men's and women's event this time it's crazy what they do. And I think younger generation kids, they just need to grow some muscle, do a lot of hard training, and probably, do run-throughs and stuff. And I'm sure their coach is fully aware of that, and they're probably trying to push this on them. So hopefully with time, they develop style, because some of them still just didn't have enough time to develop a style. Yeah, you can see, oh, this is going to be great. This is beautiful. Long lines, long arms. But it's hard to create Scott Hamilton or Kurt Browning out of someone who is 18 and just beginning their way up. It's just, it will take time.
Yeah.
And I think with time, the Gumenik and Semenenko and other boys, they will catch up, and some of them will definitely create some competition to other skaters.
Now, I want to ask you, I know that the federation is trying to make the figure skating exciting, and I know that people aren't watching TV as much in Russia because of the isolation and everything, so the interest is waning a bit. I was wondering if you missed, this is just me, I missed the natural kind of like effervescence of Medvedeva as the team captain. I mean, she's a great host in what she does, but I don't feel like we know Valyeva as a personality the same way we know Zhenya. And Zhenya and Elena, no matter how you slice it, have a natural competitiveness.
Yes.
I missed them against each other as the team captains. It wasn't the same watching like Valyeva against Sigitova.
Well, I think there was a reason for the change, because Camilla was supposed to compete, and last minute she couldn't because apparently she was sick. I think they just did it because they wanted her to participate. But I agree with you, Camilla, Alina and Zhenya, they were perfect. It's like a natural little competition there. And it was always nice and kind. It was never mean or anything. But Camilla is just young. I mean, she's a young girl. She will develop probably personality that it takes to be team captain. But even from watching the event, she's always kind of quiet, bites her lip. She doesn't know what to say sometimes because she's 15. I mean, I completely understand. And most of the teammates that she was the team captain, they're maybe twice her age, or, half, probably 10, 15 years older. So, it puts pressure on her. And how much can you really tell your teammates, hey, come on, let's do it. That's one thing. But then you cannot really say, hey, you need to do this, this, and that. As Zhenya and Alina, they could have said something, because they both have, they have their career and medals and success. So they do have things to share with younger generation. Yeah, I agree. But Zhenya was doing something else, like helping to host the show, but it was not the same.
You miss Sasha Trusova? Because I miss her personality here in
I just feel bad for her, because I don't know what's going on there, but I feel like in a way it's not the same. After the Olympics, she changed coaches again, and her training is probably not the same, because with Eteri, it's this and that, and that's it. It's final, that's how she is, which is normal. But I think she switched coaches, and her training is not as strong and probably not as strict. I just feel bad for her, because I love her. She's just a really, really motivated, amazing athlete. And it's sad not to see her in her best form. It's sad not to see her at competitions, because I thought she was going to just grab it and do better this year. But apparently, maybe she's just taking this year a little easier and trying to get herself to a new level, because she's definitely, even Camilla changed a bit. So I think it's just the time for the girls to figure out what they want and where they're going with their skating, because both of them kind of look like it's not the same. They
she
both.
And Mark were there. They showed them in the stands watching, which was interesting. Also, that they were there but not involved in any way. I mean, there was a talk for a while about, would Trusova consider pairs, which may or may not bring us to Ms. Kosternaya.
Yes. How do you feel about our new member of the pair community, Alyona Kosternaya? I've never met a better pair girl personality in my life.
Well, she's built perfect for pair skating. She's so petite and so strong, and she'll do great. Yes, I agree with her decision totally.
Do you think she can be
healthy? I don't know.
Do you think that Kosternaya can be healthy enough for pairs? I mean, she's had so many injuries over the last years. Okay.
Absolutely, because if she gets a good right partner who will never drop her, because most injuries come from either fall from a lift or not being caught from a twist, split, and stuff like that, she'll be fine. Because how much can she do? I mean, it's going to be triple flip, maybe triple lutz if the guy can do it. And throws, she can do any throw. She can probably do a quadruple throw for that matter because she's so good. I think she'll be fine, honestly. I think it's the right
St. Petersburg, and she could go to tomorrow Moskvina. She could handle a personality like Kosternaya.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that you were a little bit like Alyona Savchenko when you competed, a little bit of a strong character, Elena.
I was Tamara's biggest accomplishment, so to speak, because I was the most difficult probably athlete she ever had, because I was just I regret, let's put it this way. I was difficult. I was very difficult. And Tamara said it herself, I think, when we were getting ready for the Olympics, and one of the NBC or ABC, I don't remember which company, came to St. Petersburg to do interviews and stuff. She said it, it was right. It's out there. Yeah, Elena's not easy to work with, so that was the truth. But most of my issues came from desire to be perfect. I had to be perfect. I would do 10 double axels, land them all. Can I do one more? No, please. Okay. Fall on that 11th, drama, start over. They gotta do it again. And it was just, my issue was jumps. And if double axel, triple toe would not land, that was the end of the world for me. Like the life ended. So, but again, my issues came from perfectionism, which
we're similar, Elena. I understand you so much.
Yeah.
I'm curious because when a single skater's then like going into pairs, something like that, and obviously Kosternaya, great jumper when she was jumping healthy and all these sorts of things, how does that rotational talent transfer to the twist and to the throws? Is there a big curve in changing that, or is it almost the same?
I think it's going to be a great privilege, because she can squeeze the twist if the guy does his thing quadruple easily, and throws. I think her discipline, her air position those things will help her a lot to be successful, because naturally she can land. I'm sure she landed triple axel from angle like this and angle like that. And that helps, that ability to understand quickly where you're in the air and still be able to save the jump or throw for that matter is going to help her a lot. I think she's going to do great in pairs. The only thing is, I started pairs when I was 12. And it took me a long time with the first partner to learn things. And then when Dennis and I started skating together, I was 21, but I already knew everything. Well, pretty much everything. So it was easy. In her case, she has to learn so much in such congested time frame, because if they want to be successful, they need to really get the work done, like compact work, squeeze it all. So learn. And that's not easy, specifically with the level of expectations from pair skating these days, when you watch events and it's like, what? They do lifts like this, they do throws like that. It's amazing. It's a lot of work they will have to do if they want to be comparable to other pair teams that already exist, or younger generation pair teams that coming out, obviously. But I'm very, very proud of her and her decision. For pair skating rocks.
I think she should go to either Pavel and Eteri or tomorrow Moskvina to.
Well, I agree with you. But that's it will depend, because they're in Moscow and they have good coaches there too. So
Tomorrow Moskvina used to tell us this, that people from St. Petersburg are more cultured than people from Moscow. Can you explain the difference?
No, I don't think so. Well, yes, I agree with you. It's different. It's like St. Petersburg is more artsy. It's like an art. Moscow is just a little bit more power, and it shows in skating. Even when Gordeev and Grinkov and Valov, Vasilyev, all the generation pair teams were skating, you always could tell the difference. There's Moscow power and there's Russia, all creative and all this kind of stuff. And even today, I think it still shows in differences in skating styles. As for people, I don't know. People are people. Eteri is wonderful. I think she's tough and all, but I think she's a very intelligent person. Same as Tamara. She's amazing. She's super intelligent. Alexei Mishina is intelligent. Maybe some younger coaches are not as experienced in how to present themselves and how to carry themselves out when they're at competitions, but that will come with time. Because like I said, my Tamara and Alexei Mishin, they always proper, but it comes with age, it comes with experience, you know, and I think that will be the difference just in general, how to conduct yourself, how to behave yourself in front of the camera, in front of your students, in front of the crowds. And that's, I wouldn't say it's because it's St. Petersburg and it's Moscow. It's just in general, level of intelligence will tell, so to speak. So.
Now, what do you make of Elizaveta Tuktamysheva? Because the last couple of times that she has skated, I've never been the biggest one of her style, but some of her programs, like last year, I thought was so creative. Her free skate, I thought was wonderful. But this year, she's becoming a grande dame of this free skate of hers. I really, I got emotional watching it. I don't get emotional watching skating.
Well, it's the choice of music for this years-long program. It's absolutely a perfect choice for her. It's meaningful to her. And you can tell when she skates, even triple axel, and triple this and triple that, she still handles the emotional part of the program so well. I watched today as well, and I was like, I want to cry. That's how beautiful it is. And that's how she carries out that character that she's trying to actually present. That it's loneliness, basically. That's the theme of the program. I'm alone, I'm lonely, I'm all alone, you know, and that's exactly what she's trying to do. And it suits her just perfect. And short program is not bad either. I think the costume is really cool. I like the shorts and all, but I agree with you. It's amazing. She just needs one quad, and that's it. And I really hope that she pulls it together next year and lands it, because I've seen it in practice, the videos that sometimes you catch. She can do it. It's just, it needs to be worked on probably more.
Well, and with her age, I think there's something very settled about her as a person. So when she goes out, you know, so much of these younger skaters, I see the perfectionism in their skating, and I see the desire to get it all done. And with Elizaveta and the age and the perspective she has now, because she's had to go through a lot, I think, about with Olympic things and all these ups and downs that she's had. I genuinely see her enjoying the opportunity to skate. And a lot of times we don't get that because everyone is so focused on the task at hand, especially technically, or all these transitions and something like that. Just to see her face look like she's really having a nice time out there, I find as an audience member, I give her extra points.
Well, it's the maturity, it's the age, it's the level of expertise, so to speak, level of experience, because she's gone through so much in all these years. I remember when she was 15 and she won, and then she disappeared, and she comes back. She breaks her leg, and it's just, she gained weight, and it was like a couple of years of absolute chaos. And then, which is amazing that she actually pulled out of all that. Thank you, Alexei Mishin, because he is a professor and an absolutely great person. He helped her out, and I think Tatiana Prokofieva as well. They kind of helped her to get it together, and that's why she's where she's at, because she's got great mentors and great people around her. And yes, I think with time, with the years go by, she gets better and better. Like other girls, they will get there, but I think she is right there when you actually watch her and you don't feel like, ooh, triple jump is coming, because everything is just so natural, organic, and she's a pure joy to watch, knowing that she's in her mid-20s, you know, it's amazing.
What do you think of Eteri's top two girls? We don't know as much about them as her other skaters. They don't do as many features on them in the news or on the first channel, but Akateva and Petrosian, you know, what do you make of them?
Well, Akateva is amazing. I watched her today. Power. She's got power. She's got gorgeous jumps and gorgeous lines, and she seems like a very sweet, determined girl. I love her. I mean, she's amazing. There's not much to say negative, because she's absolutely, she's a full package, in my opinion. Maturity will come, the personality will develop, the character will be developed. So Adelia is adorable. She's like a little doll. And then when I watch her, I just want to hug her, because she's so cute and so beautiful and so perfect in every possible aspect. Her lines, her extensions, her face and smile and everything. And the strength will come, because sometimes I think she just lacks a little bit of strength because she's so tiny. But I think that will come. And even if she doesn't grow like 5 more inches, she's still going to have a great presence on the ice, because she's so already nearly perfect in her presence on the ice. I love them both. I think they're just amazing.
Well, and I don't mean to overstep a line, but she did just come out with an interview recently where she said the night before a competition, she will not eat in anticipation of the competition in order to regulate things. Those were her words that she shared. And I just thought, I am not a skater who has done triple jumps. So I just think the power, to me, it blows my mind that anyone could be doing those things by not eating the night before. I would think you would need so much energy in order to achieve those technical feats. It blows my mind. It's very confusing to me because I would think you need the fuel.
Well, that's maybe how she stays so tiny, because, honestly, every girl's fear, mine was too, when you go through puberty, it hits you. And naturally you're hungry all the time. And if you allow yourself to eat this, you know what happens. And maybe she's nervous before the competition. She doesn't eat, she feels better. But not eating, probably not a good idea. Eat healthy, eat something that allows you to stay in good shape and give you that nutrients that you need for next day. But not eating probably just because it's her nervous reaction to the events. But I don't know. I could not do this. I'm always hungry.
Okay.
The one difference I see between Akateva and Petrosian, a little bit of the air position, Akateva's is better, and the skating skills. Akateva has much better crossovers and glide.
This is the glide, the ability to feel that edge. That's why her power is better.
Petrosian has a little bit more personality, character, a little bit, she's so determined, you can tell.
Yes. Sweet little girl. God bless her. Seriously, I mean, I love them both.
And I want to give credit to those skaters. When they were doing the and here comes Akateva, and then they would do this group video thing where those things are so awkward to film. So I give credit to every one of those skaters for just trying their best and doing something cute, because that would be so uncomfortable and weird to try to film those little shorts. But she was adorable in hers.
Yes.
So Jonathan and I are going to discuss this after, but we want to know, what are you looking forward to for U.S. Nationals this coming week?
Oh, my Lord. Well, first of all, we have a girl from our rink who's going.
Okay.
It's really amazing. Yes, Crystal Edwards. I worked with her when she was 7, 8, 9, when she was a baby. Then she switched to other coaches and actually moved to Maryland, I believe, or Virginia for a while. And she was always good, but just last minute, something happens and she's not on the team or not top of the competition. So finally, she made it to nationals, and she's a junior level. And we're all so proud of her because she's going to be there. Yeah, she actually left today with her coach, Jason. And so we're going to watch them and root for them. So I expect a really good competition. I wish I could go, but it's in San Diego. I believe it's in California. There's no way I cannot take off and just go watch. But I know some of my skaters, actually, some girls and their families are traveling on Thursday to watch specifically ladies event, because the girls want to see how to skate. Eventually this is their basically role models. And I'm glad that we have Crystal, who is going there to represent a club. Well, actually not a club, a rink, because she's from a different club, but represent us in a way, North Carolina, so girls and boys at our facility can see it's doable. We got this. We can do this. This is awesome. Yes, it took her a while. She's 20, but it doesn't matter. She's going. And most likely she can be top, I would say top 5. She could easily do that. So that's what I expect the most, because I want to see her. I want to see how she does. But other than that, of course, men's, women's, yes, I'm looking forward to watching everything.
I think I remember you love Jason Brown and Ilia Malinin. Will you be at adult competitions this year? Because last year I checked in at the sectionals and the first credential at the top of the pile said Elena Betchke, coach. You were not there. So
because I cannot travel with just one, because I have 45 more waiting for me at home.
I was so excited. I was like,
Well, where is it? I know I'm going to Nashville. Whatever it is in Nashville.
That's in October. That's the international. I think I'm going to do that. But this year it's in Florida, and then for the East Coast, and then it'll be in Salt Lake City.
No, my girls, I call them girls, of course, they're not interested this year because there were some changes and I took a few young ones, but they're not quite there yet. They're learning. They're determined. But Nashville, I'm making everyone like, come on, let's make a team. Let's go. Let's do it. So Nashville is for sure.
All right. I better see you there because I do my run-through.
I promise I'll be there.
Okay. I do my run-throughs every morning. So yeah.
Good. Listen to your coach.
Yes. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you guys. It was fun. Thank you.
So I love chatting with Elena. I don't know. She's like a friend in our head now. We can just...
She's just like a ball of sunshine. I went back and rewatched like all her stuff, like in anticipation of today again. She's fun. She's fun. I like her.
Yeah. We forgot to mention about the fall of Anastasia Zinina, which I know people will want to talk about because it looked oddly reminiscent of Darья Usacheva, in obviously extremely upsetting.
Very. As a viewer, I can't, I mean, obviously my heart goes out to the person itself. It was a trauma to even watch it, especially because before I had the chance to see the full competition, I had seen that had happened. So it was really upsetting seeing her cheerful intro and start the program when you already know something terrible is going to happen. It was really dark for me.
Yeah, I mean, and good for Russia for what they do. I mean, those intros, I know that they're awkward, but they do add something as a viewer, especially for the general public for an event like this. Although I have to say, I do not think that Valyeva against the, I thought that they were boring as...
Zagitova was almost non-present in all of it. Yeah, they were showing more of Valyeva cheering on her team.
I just don't think it's the same kind of energy. You know, you can't manufacture that natural...
Right.
I mean, I think it was the first year. Remember the astronauts wishing, maybe, but, you know, I was talking to a journalist from Russia today who said, you know, they're really, I didn't want to, you know, because of the war, you know, morale is down, which is also affecting the figure skating ratings. They're out of international competition. You know, they're trying, but there is concern there that, you know, let's say that First Channel decides not to proceed with figure skating for next year, that could impact Russian figure skating immensely, right? I mean, right now it is still a priority, but with everything going on with the Olympics and the war, you know, we don't even know there. I mean, that at the end of the day, that is a huge source of income and support for these skaters. And it is their careers at the end of the day. I know people have all sorts of thoughts, but you know, they still love skating the way we love skating. So and that's, you know, all they know. But as Zinina's fall, I read that she did have a pre-existing hip issue, and she fell to the left, which is always that's not the side you want to fall to. That's not your landing leg. You know, that's the bad side for a skater that rotates in her direction. So, and those falls are much harder to prepare for, and it looked really bad. They're saying that it's a bruise, which,
among other things, perhaps. I mean.
You hope that's fine. They'll say, oh, she'll be back within a week. I mean, obviously it's like a bone bruise and something bad, but she was still in the hospital when they filmed her today. So, I mean, it looks somewhat concerning, but she didn't get up. So yeah, I don't.
And that was clearly a broadcasting editorial choice, was that after the fall, when it was clear she was not moving, she was immobilized, and then they panned away. We never saw her leave the
island. So in nationals, I forget if it was on live or not. Sometimes when they would have gymnastics nationals on, it switched from year to year, but it used to be that the women's first day would be tape delayed by a day and put on Saturday, and then the finals were on Sunday. And Rebecca Bross blew out her knee on a vault, and they kept the camera on her for an inordinate amount of time, screaming and crying on the mat. And it's a year away from the Olympics, and she was coming back from another injury. And then they panned to everyone else's faces, which were obviously concerned. And then also, the one thing I'll say about gymnastics as opposed to figure skating, and this is where figure skating is changing, is that these sort of injuries in gymnastics, especially when you get to the elite top level and the collegiate level, it's really, unfortunately, common to see someone at least tear an Achilles. Like, I know that I've been to several meets in person or practice, sessions before the competition where someone goes and you're like, oh, that's an Achilles. And like, you want to say like, oh, we don't know, we hope, but you know kind of what it looks like. And then they carry the person off. And this is a really sad thing about gymnastics, but you have to be able to compartmentalize that, not become too emotionally invested or worried about yourself or neurotic or right. And then move forward, right? And obviously then people are like, don't they have feelings about it when they're getting ready? And it's like, well, they still have a job to do that's nervous about their own lives. And I was wondering about the skaters who went after. I mean, it seemed like, there was a whole other warm-up group. Maybe they didn't see it. I mean, obviously they would have known about it. I mean, you do see these kinds of accidents in the rink. I mean, it's always horrible. There was a skater at our rink who had a bad fall and had to get, a staple in their head last week. And, I wasn't there. I'm glad I didn't see it, and they were back on the ice, luckily they didn't have a concussion, but they, as we approach this level of difficulty and these younger and younger skaters are doing these really difficult jumps, I do think that we're going to see more and more of these injuries that are really alarming to watch.
And even if that warm-up group, for instance, had not seen it happen, we know from attending competitions live, the energy in the arena, not to sound all hippy-dippy, that's a real thing. And yes. I would imagine that it sucked all the air. Here's where all fun and we've got stuffed animals and little clappers and all this sort of stuff. For that energy to just be sucked out of that arena, and then you just are going on for your peppy introduction for the warm-up group, something's wrong. You can feel it
in your stomach, right? Yeah. And especially if you're an empath, you really feel it. Now, I remember at Nationals in 2017 in Kansas City in pairs, one team fell and they dropped from the twist, and Tara Kane fell on a throw. And in those situations, you could just feel just the energy in the crowd. I mean, it just evaporates. I mean, it's just really challenging to come back from. So yeah, it is concerning. So, I mean, I wish her the best.
I hope she's okay, yeah.
We haven't really seen Darьya Usacheva back, and you just wonder, do these skaters have the muscles and the strength to be doing these difficult elements that they are doing? And we do see the skaters talk about not eating, and all of those things in my mind start to go together. And I remember in 2000, 2001, there was a whole generation of skaters in the US trying to get those triples. Jenny, Deanna, Naomi Narinam, I mean, they all had hip issues, like one after another. That was like the injury of the season. So
it was really interesting when you back in the day had that interview with Michelle Kwan, and you were talking about like the strategy for her to Salt Lake City was very different than the season after, where her approach to getting the jumps more was not to be smaller, but to be stronger. And then it totally resulted in much better jumping from her that season, the idea of being strong instead of small. And I love the TSL shorts you're posting, and that Midori Ito triple axel from that 1993, where Sandra Bezic is losing her mind, and so am I. And you just think like that, the kind of muscle, strength, power required to achieve such a thrilling jump, that strategy seems to have changed somewhere along the line, because the people trying the same elements now seem to be coming at it from a very different off-ice sort of approach.
Well, and I think that strategy required skaters to get better later and be stronger, because they had to spend so many hours doing figures, which figures have a wonderful tool. I don't think that it's ever coming back. One, the knowledge base, unfortunately, is slipping. And on the other hand, I mean, it's so expensive to train figures. I mean, it was great for ice rinks, and a lot of ice rinks have really transitioned to hockey, because having that many skaters that had to do so many hours of figures every day sold so many blocks of ice that they were able to really promote figure skating. And I think there is that intangible, does working on your control make you stronger and then ultimately make you a better figure skater. We did see better skating. We see a wider variety of turns now, but I think when you look at some of Medvedeva's, the quality of the turns is not what you would see before, but they didn't necessarily do the difficult turns that they would do in the figures in their free programs. If you're watching like a Jill Turner, it was all about crossovers and but the requirements were different. But yeah, I do think the natural skating of a Brian Orser, or Brian Boitano, or Joseph Slavchik, you look at it and you're like, wow, they really have something. So with Midori and Tanya, they had to be, they couldn't rush that process in the same way. And I think that skaters do bypass, like Elena said, you bypass the skating skills, but it does catch up.
Again, what we responded to, because you were posting both of their triple axels recently, we don't respond to the speed of rotation. We don't even respond to the number of rotation as much as I'm responding to the explosive power, height, and distance of those things. That's what was thrilling. Yeah.
I do think that the mindset of skating has changed because it's so technical now, and you have to save energy, and everything has to be so trained in a different way. I do think some of the abandon is gone. But if you know that you have to land a jump at a certain angle to go into a transition to get a level 4 spin out of, those skaters didn't have to do that. I don't know how that would have changed it, but I can't imagine a Tanya Harding or Midori's, I think, who knows, but Tanya or like a Nicole Bobeck, or I don't know if you could imagine them having that carefree, quality to their skating and then going right into the spin after that has to be so controlled. I mean, it does seem to affect just some of the natural joy and
it's to burden as opposed to
It's more, I think it's a psychological burden more than anything else. I think it's a psychological difference in the approach. I think that Tuktamysheva probably could fly into a jump, but she's probably also thinking about the 75 things she has to do after the jump.
Yeah.
You have to kind of save your energy and your mental energy for everything that you have to do.
Well, even when Elena was talking about the programs that did not work as successfully for her were one with no mental or physical break. And that is what we see now, is a nonstop required focus, and you are nonstop doing something difficult that unfortunately the audience kind of glazes over and doesn't even appreciate sometimes is how difficult all that minutia can be. And yet, as I was watching Elena's Olympic programs again this morning, like they do like just a cute somersault move at the end of the program and it gets an ovation like they had just landed a quad axel, because it's not always the most complicated things that get the crowd going. And I think a lot of the requirements now are not geared towards the people watching.
Yes. And what I would say with that is it seems like in ice dance, they're always considering how do we get people more engaged? And maybe it's because there's always this sense that ice dance is going to be thrown out and that ice dance isn't considered legitimate and that we have to get people engaged. But ice dance seems to be the one discipline that's really flourishing under IJS. And now we're going to see solo dance. And I'm telling you, if you see what Brooke Tufts is like working on for this season, as opposed to last, like it's another notch, right? I don't think that the same emphasis is done in singles. And I think having a choreographic spin and more choreographic elements would actually really help singles to lighten that up and improve the creativity and the individuality more.
Even in some of the shorts you've been posting are just these incredible spins where they are in one position doing a fast scratch spin that lasts forever, that is absolutely thrilling. I don't know why that is considered less valuable than doing 85 positions, often in sort of like a not fully extended way for just a couple of rotations each, that to me has no impact compared to some of those scratch spins we saw in the 50s and 60s. Yeah.
Well, I always, as a viewer, and this is so aging myself, but listen, there's something so thrilling to me. And yes, we see skaters that do the eye spin at the end or that do a Bielmann at the end, but there's something so thrilling seeing like that huge scratch spin at the end that gets the audience on their feet and it blurs. And it's, there are few skaters who can do something really spectacular or creative. I wish that the rules would encourage that more and allow for that more.
Yeah. It's a surefire way to get huge applause. Even Ilia last season, he ended with that headless scratch spin. And that suddenly made you even more excited than you might have been otherwise at the end of that program. Yeah.
So what as we go into US Nationals, I heard that, how we talked about manifesting Jason coming back?
Yeah.
Apparently he was encouraged, asked, suggested by the USFS to participate after that Japan Open. They were on the same page as we were, is what a journalist who had spoken to Tracy said that was, and it's interesting because we look at 4 continents is going to be right at Nationals. And I know people are wanting to go. And here's the weird thing about timing of this event, about 4 continents and US Nationals and the calendar, is that obviously there's a bidding that goes on when 4 continents are held and Nationals. And I don't know if the calendars were made, at different times, but because of the way, and this event always has this problem, but now more than ever, Ilia Malinin and Jason Brown are both not going to 4 continents, which, okay, on one hand, you say, all right, like they're not going, but the level of 4 continents is which is always an event that sometimes has great fields, sometimes has really weak fields.
Right.
This year, I'm concerned because, and I think it's great that both Ilia and Jason are going to do art on ice and they could build up their fan bases in Europe, which could give them longer career opportunities. I was talking to Ilia's agent and he said, one thing about Nathan Chen is that he did shows mainly in the United States and in Japan, but they want to build Ilia as a brand around the world. And Ilia's agent is Ari Zakarian, who also works with Alaj, who has certainly built a global brand. I mean, my cousin sends me videos of Alaj. I don't know if they have any idea that he wasn't some Olympic medalist, right? But they know who he is from social media, right? So I think that that's good. And the other thing is that the 4 continents is like a week after US Nationals. And for someone who's doing the kind of technical demands that Ilia Malinin is to come down and then, with him, he hasn't have world titles at the senior level with that kind of reputation. If he were to go to 4 continents and then not do well, that is seen and shown around the world and how to judge.
That's a fast turnaround. And for the men, if Japan and Korea shows up in full force, that's going to be a tough competition. It's not going to be a phone-it-in moment. So I sort of am on board with them missing that. It's unfortunate that they have to, but I think to turn around and do a Nationals, which we know is probably so emotionally draining and exhausting, and then suddenly do 4 continents. Do we know where 4 continents is this year?
Colorado. I mean, that's the strange thing is that it's in the US, but it's not really in the best interest of these skaters to do it, right? And then the other thing is, what's the prize money, right? How much money are you earning on, are you going to earn on art and ice versus 4 continents, which isn't a sure bet that you're going to get that placement. Right. So I do think that the one thing is you see gymnasts that make so much money on social media, right? But that also keeps them in the sport longer, right? Because they have those opportunities. Look at Tuktamysheva, who has the opportunities and she's staying in the sport.
Right.
I think that we need to kind of keep the skaters in and give them those opportunities. So hopefully, that it does help them out, but certainly when they're on TV, it also helps. So
yeah.
I would like to see, though it's sort of annoying when you see everything being an ad, it's encouraging that those skaters do get those opportunities because then they stay in the sport longer. So right. I don't know about you, but I like the fact that we're watching Alexa Knierim. We were talking about her in 2013. We're talking about her in 2023. And I am excited to watch her with Brandon this week. I don't know. I feel like we've known her for many years as a viewer, and I find that very satisfying.
Like viewing a friend. And it's just it's just so much more fun to watch. I've even said this about just like an opera or a show of any type. You just invest more when you're kind of rooting for that personality and you know them a little bit. Like, it just, you want them to do even better, you know?
Do you think this will be her last nationals? I mean,
I wonder if they're on a take it one season at a time kind of thing. Because again, right now, other than the Japanese pair, I don't know who really their biggest threat is. And obviously I've been watching her as the blade turns. There seems to be confusion in some of the Russian public because they took away the right to host the Grand Prix for next season, but they did not officially announce whether or not the athletes would compete next season. So I wonder if that's another factor to consider. Again, the 4 pairs we saw in Russia this weekend would have clobbered the field internationally. But if they are not there, and again, we don't hear things from China, although they had their national championships. I saw a couple of videos emerge, but why not keep it going?
Yeah, I think for Alexa and Brandon, if they're making, again, you talk about these opportunities, if they're making the money, earning prize money, there is going to be a Stars on Ice this spring, which that helps them. Hopefully they have an agent that gets them some shows.
Remember, for a while, Stars on Ice wasn't even interested in any pairs because they didn't have the accolades. And
wrong on their end.
Yeah.
But Alexa has that world title, gets to go on Stars on Ice. Hopefully they do get some of those shows in Asia. You might be more interested in sticking around another year. I know that Chris has got an opportunity to be, I think, a rink director in Chicago, but
they know how to do that. They know how to do that. You know what I mean?
I was thinking that he could coach them probably there for at this point, if they're doing the same elements, and they could go back and forth with Jenny and Todd. I mean, no, we haven't asked her specifically, but I don't know. I'm not ready for Alexa to retire. I'm not ready for it. Okay.
No, I don't think the US is ready for it either.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
So keep her on the salary for another year.
Yeah.
There will be a Montreal Worlds. And then if she goes to Montreal Worlds, then we can say, Alexa, Worlds are in the US another year. Why don't you stick around? And then we're going to say, Alexa, the Olympics are just a year away. Just one more.
And again, but taking it season by season, I think the situation internationally may be a big factor in that. And there's no way to tell what will happen next season, let alone by the next Olympics.
Building legacy. I mean, she's getting a Michelle Kwan number of titles. So this would be her 6th gold medal at the Nationals.
I mean, yeah.
Hey, Alexa, this is not too shabby. You're now Michelle Kwan 2002.
Vincent Owen numbers. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Does she have more? How many does Ty have? 5 or 6? I know Ty also won the juniors because Ty will post that she and Randy won. I remember that junior was that 74. Looking up. Let's see. I don't want to listen. Ty will tweet at us. Ty has 5 gold medals at the Nationals. Alexa would pass Ms. Ty Babylonia this week.
Just saying. Okay.
Just saying. Okay. I'm okay. I think, listen, I think Ty would bless it because she blessed their world title. They congratulate. Yes. So I think Ty could, Ty's from California. They could invite her to give Alexa her 6th gold medal at the Nationals.
That's right.
Yes.
That would be a moment. That would be a moment.
Yes. It would be like a Canadian passing of the torch.
That's right.
I remember Ty always wanted pairs to stick together. Well, Alexa and Brandon have been together almost 3 years now. So that's a long time in American pair skating.
It really is. The thing I'm also, just to segue back to Jason for a moment, is obviously we saw the free skate in Japan, which I think has great potential to be a huge moment. I'm curious, I have not seen anything about the short program.
There's an On Ice Perspectives video of it. He did it outdoors. The music was not my favorite. It wasn't as special as that Rohin free. Rohin is having a moment this season. I mean, he was really, I don't know, on all cylinders. That moment is so perfect. That music is so perfect for Jason. It's just has enough of that.
Man of La Mancha in the free.
It has enough of that widespread appeal for Jason, enough of the emotion. Listen, if he's clean, you're going to be crying. I'm going to be crying. Right. You know, we have so many feelings, you know, it's just, but who we won't see is Caitlin Hawayek. Now, this was an interesting thing because they were more honest maybe than people are when they pull out, right? And they said it was a combination of injuries that have led to mental struggles that they need a break before this competition, and they'll be petitioning to the World Championships. Obviously, they've earned a spot to the Grand Prix final. They've had great results. I do wonder, like, I think the one thing is, like, I'm all for, like, mental health is the same thing as physical health. Like, I think it's great that you can do this. There's a feeling like, oh, they don't want to go to nationals, which I don't think any skater.
I don't. That's not the vibe I'm getting. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, can they get the mental rest you need to be in and kind of therapy or whatever, you know, whatever's going on, not knowing, and physical to get strong enough to be ready for Worlds. I mean, at this point in time.
And for all we know, that struggle had happened a while back, and it prolonged, you know, it delayed the start of training for all we know. Again, it's hard to tell without such information, but for all we know, they are training again and would be fine by Worlds, but it took a hiatus as a result of that just pushed everything back, and they're feeling prepared. I don't know. What I do applaud is that openness, because I think it's also a message to younger skaters to say, yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. And they probably still will go to Worlds and have a lovely finish there. But
I think they'll want to send them because they certainly can help secure 3 spots in the next huge. Well, I would say the Green and Parsons a year ago would have been a much more sure bet for a strong number 2. This year, with their material and the coaching change, who knows really what to expect from the.
But even still, are we not? We're sending 3 dance teams, yes.
Yeah. Otherwise,
so it doesn't really also throw off the potential selections either, right? Because I would still see Green and Parsons going either way.
Right. It would be, what does Ponomarenko go? And they would be, you know, they are from the same umbrella school, so they would have the the inside knowledge on whether or not Hawayek and Baker are going to do this or not. I think it will make sense for them to provisionally allow them. I do think that there needs to be, unfortunately, I think with petitions, it's always relative, right? It's always what is good for US figure skating right now. And because there's always inherently a lack of transparency. Remember, Alexa and Chris didn't go to nationals in 2017, but they were sent to Worlds, but they did have the alternates right there because of her condition that she had at that time, that they didn't. And they went from being second ranked the year before at nationals to, they were like, no, we have to send them. And their absence was what made US figure skating be like, no, they are the ones that we need to get us the Olympic spot. And it wound up being the right decision that year. I think you look back, remember when Johnny Weir was world bronze medalist, Grand Prix final bronze medalist, got sick at a show in Korea, and they made him, he felt he had to go to nationals in 2009. And then he didn't perform well and didn't get sent to Worlds. And that was somewhat controversial, but he was being punished, right?
But I even felt that about Jeremy Abbott in 2011.
Yes.
Having just been in the Grand Prix final, and then they sent people, and inevitably, of course, they lost the spots. Now, I mean, obviously, I know that Jeremy wasn't always consistent, but certainly that was the better option. And don't get me started on 1993, sending Lisa Irvin and Tanya Kwiatkowski over Tanya Harding, you know.
That's where I think that they need to have some sort of a criteria, yes. Because in all of those cases, I would say, if you are, and this is my own, if you have attained a certain level of status, right? Top 6 in the world, top 5 in the world, and there's not, 3 people ahead of you, or 2, the number of spots. I think you should at least have the option, if you achieve, compete in the Grand Prix, show a certain result or status, however you want to define it. I think that they could petition, meet, like, with the caveat that you do some sort of a monitoring session where you either do it in person or virtually, where you have to send a video at a certain time or do it live streamed, and get a certain score or show a certain amount of readiness, a certain number of weeks before the event, knowing that it would go up, with the
and
weeks.
Something with like Hawayek and Baker, this isn't they took the fall off and are looking for even more time. They showed very strongly this fall, and so one would think this is a no-brainer.
I just think it's not their fault. I think for US figure skating, I think that there does need to be some sort of a rule, because there are always hard feelings, and people will say all sorts of things, in this situation out of frustration. But I think that, that transparency or that kind of a rule, at least, well, they've kind of earned it, right? Like they've gotten that result before.
Well, because even thinking if the next team in line, let's say, if Hawayek and Baker said we're done for the season, if the next in line was Carrera and Ponomarenko, in this instance, Carrera and Ponomarenko, the idea of sending that kind of younger team would be to get that mileage and experience, but they have been getting mileage and experience. It's not like they are lacking that. And I think sending Hawayek and Baker just to inevitably get those 3 spots again, I think that is the right move.
Yeah, I wonder with Hawayek and Baker what the future looks like, right? They've had a concussion. Her knee has been wrapped it was certainly wrapped last year. I think it's still potentially a struggle. I wonder, can they get physically, like what kind of time off are they looking at over the season? What kind of off-ice help are you looking at? Physical therapy, what kind of
mental health are you
looking at? What does that look like to get ready for next season? I know that they have obviously the life coach, performance coach who works with them, not knowing what the thing is, but I wonder if they do take some time off. I think they would probably be smart taking, the spring.
It's interesting. Like, I love that they have this sort of like coach that's on staff and all that sort of stuff. I would think for me personally, it would be also important to have a mental health person that had nothing to do with skating.
Yes, absolutely.
Completely not affiliated in any way, just to help keep perspective on some things outside of that bubble, because it seems so hard to think and remember there's life outside of that bubble. So I hope, in addition, again, I love that they have those performance psychologists and life coaches, or whatever the terminology is, but I would think someone outside of the sport is crucial.
Yeah, and I do think that as you get older, training your mind is as important, if not more important, than training your body. So I even see a difference because I meditate now before I go to the rink in the morning. I get up 15 minutes earlier to do that, and my practice is more consistent.
Because, as we know, and a lot of the literature we have read, the body will respond to an emotion whether we want it to or not, whether we know it's happening or not. I mean, for me with the singing, if I start to get angry about something, or stressed or flustered or rushed or whatever it is, or even overly euphoric or something inside has shifted and will ultimately change my normal way of doing things. So to get in front of that and know what happens, I think is crucial. Yeah,
I agree. So I think that they still have definitely a future. I think they have to get healthy and, figure out strengthening if they have to strengthen, the muscles around the knee or whatever it is. But I think, hopefully they can recover, and that this can be kind of a smart decision that was made. And But yeah, I'm excited to see Jason Brown, and I've heard really good things about Amber Glenn's training over the last couple of months. So I think it would be
she's someone new, right?
Working with Damon Allen. I know she works with Tammy a bit, but not full time with Tammy, because Tammy, I think, can get a little
okay.
A coach from Colorado was telling me that they had, after a full day of training, they had some sort of simulation, and it's like, well, why would you do the simulation after the full day of training, right?
Yeah, so because that's not a simulation anymore, because you wouldn't do that the day of a competition. Yeah.
Well, then one skater from one of the fall competitions fell a number of times, right? Mm-hmm. And another skater popped a number of times, right? Amber Glenn didn't go because I think her performance coach said this is not positive, and that person is right, because if your last simulation is horrible, imagine going into
with no confidence. Yeah.
I think that's where a coach like Tammy, when you look at it and you're like, she really doesn't have the kind of results that she has. It's kind of built on a house of bullshit, right? She's got power, and she has Justin, who was her assistant, who's in, and you keep sending talent enough that they have Vincent Joe's won bronze medal that 50 people coached him to, but
Right.
How many of her skaters didn't really improve their performance or get their maximum out of them? So,
well, it was an interesting subject when you say that sometimes coaches forget to include the human element.
Yeah.
And that's, as we're learning, that's almost the biggest part of the puzzle at times. Even this past weekend, knowing that like everybody has the same skills and everybody can do that at any given point, it's just will they? And that is so much more that managerial thing that can help that instead of just more. Yeah.
That's usually the coach that's insecure. That leads someone to do that. So,
yeah.
Well, what are you looking forward to? So I think Amber Glenn, if she could do well, like a nailed free skate, I think it could be huge.
That would be huge. Yeah. Because we're sending three women also, right? Yeah. So, I mean, we've got Amber. You never know what Gracie is going to come up with. Not that she may make the team, but she could have another moment. She had a moment in that short program last year. You've got Isabeau, you've got Audrey, you've got Brady, who, is that going to be more of the same or will something have changed? You've got Lindsay, you've got, do they say Ava or Ava?
Ava Ziegler.
She was really creating some momentum this fall as well. So it should be.
Star Andrews also had that amazing free skate earlier this season.
At State Canada, that's right. That's right. So it should be an interesting lineup.
And Camden, I think, in the men's event, what is he going to pull out? Yarrow, we saw his quad back, quad flip. So I don't know. He had those boot problems last year, but we haven't seen much of him. So that would be great for him. And Moki, Jimmy
Liam, Torgashev. I mean, these are all, you never know who might just line it up in any moment. They're unpredictable, but it could be in an exciting way. Yeah.
So Danny O'Shea with his new partner. I forget her name, but to me, it's very Shelby Lyons and Brian Wells. That's how I'm thinking of it. That's the age difference we're going on.
Fish called Wanda. That's all I'll ever remember about them. Yeah. Oh my God. I can't even see.
I just remember that Shelby Lyons lived in a converted closet, right? That's
right. And they showed it. They showed it.
Yes.
Yeah. It had Harry Potter vibes before Harry Potter existed.
It was a thing. So I was talking to Christine Brennan and I said, she was like, oh, and is Danny O'Shea? I said, yeah, he has a new partner and the age difference is like Shelby Lyons and Brian Wells. And she went, oh my God, is she still living in that closet? And I was like, that's what everyone thinks.
Not even a euphemism, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, and Europeans, I'm excited to watch, this battle with the French men between Adam and Kevin Amos.
Absolutely.
The Italian men are really becoming stronger with some depth with Matteo Rizzo, with Nicola Memola, Gabrielle.
Well, Nicola's not going. This is going to be.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Okay.
I'm just talking about how they're starting to get some real depth in Italian men's skating. We have big guns, one of whom being Daniel. Do you think Eteri risks her reputation to take him?
No, I don't think she goes at all, especially after such a brief period of having worked. I don't think on an optics level, she would want to appear and say, this is what I have done. Because also, say it again.
I think it's Dudakov. We didn't see him this week at the First Channel Cup. So was he training Daniel? Danny, I didn't see him unless he was there and I missed it. I
thought I saw Dudakov maybe just like in like an off shot somewhere. Like, I don't know if he was sitting or camera front.
He doesn't demand a lot of attention. He's
kind of just is okay to fade into the background. But again, I would assume they didn't change the program so quickly. So I think they will wait to make their appearance until they feel it's their real stamp. But
he's ready at the Worlds, I think we'll see, right?
Still, I think all eyes are going to be looking for a change, knowing that anyone in any situation, what is going to happen in the few weeks that it's, or a month, even, I don't know how long it's been, but it's such a brief period of time. I find it hard to believe we're going to see something different. And I think
they have their jump technique. That's the one thing that I'll say is that he has a very similar jump technique to Dudakov. So I think it would be more about the training and the pharmacological support and mental coaching of Eteri. Yes.
Well, and I would think from their standpoint, they're going to learn a lot now, having trained, having him train with them and then seeing how he competes as a result. I'm sure it's going to be like data collecting on how that all goes.
And let's be honest, Eteri's empire is not what it was a year ago.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
And even in the environment in the rink, so to have him doing his amount of quads has to help Akateva, Petrosian, Elizaveta Tuktamysheva. I mean, some of the boys, they haven't had.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was pronouncing it wrong until I heard this broadcast where they kept saying Akateva, because I always said Akateva, and now I'm like, oh, it's Akateva. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so.
But even with Daniel, I think even if Dudikov made slight adjustments or something was changed to the technique, I think for anyone, the minute you get under competition lights and that adrenaline is flowing, I think the body will resort back. Even if progress has been, even if changes have been made, I think the body will go back to what it knows in that moment, first time out.
I don't know if Eteri will be able to get rid of this because she never helped Maya Hromich's Amber Corwin jump technique.
Right.
But I do think if anyone could scare this out of him, it would be Eteri. But as I was talking to someone earlier, let's not pretend that Eteri has been in Moscow very much this year. I mean, you look at the girls and the fact that we don't know much about Akateva or Petrosian, they're not doing the features, they're not in Sports Rue, they're not on Match TV. We don't know as much about them. They've been kind of still writing about the stars that we know, and these new stars haven't developed and they haven't gone to the international competitions as much. So they're kind of, yes, they're doing amazing technical things, but Eteri hasn't spent as much time with them. And I wonder, their packaging, even Daniil must have spent more time. I mean, Eteri was in the US for a long period of time getting Diana prepared and really does visit the US and Virginia kind of frequently.
Yeah.
She has not spent as much time with these skaters. It has to be Daniil and Dudikov that are really doing
the work. Yeah.
I wonder why they both have like the kind of pants for the free skate. I don't think it really works with either one. They both have terrible music. Akateva, it gets better when she goes into the song that Adam Rapan used, but
and again, like the programs, I find that costuming so cluttered and distracting. And we knew that like Medvedeva was like dealing with this in Toronto when they wanted her to dress a little bit more simply, and they wanted to like take scissors and slash it and beat it and add.
It was her mother that did it.
Yeah, but I mean,
we heard this on a TSL Live that Zhana Medvedeva took scissors to a Matthew Carone dress on the ice in the middle of the cricket club. Okay.
And we know how his work is so beautiful and clean and shows the line of the body, and it doesn't need all that other stuff. And that seems to be so the aesthetic of the Russian ladies in particular, is just more is more. And it so detracts from everything.
You know what you notice? You know who isn't dressed like that? Diana Davis.
Interesting.
Eteri does the formula because it's easy and it works for the women, but to get her daughter to the front, she's putting more creativity there.
Yeah, because
she's signing off on every decision that they are making in ice dance.
I would think, yeah.
That's why I wonder if she goes to the US. Let's say Russia doesn't come back in. I wonder if Eteri would be more of a figurehead, consultative person for the ice dance.
Well, and that was her discipline.
Yeah, we often forget. We do often forget. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so interesting is this like quad factory or whatever that has been happening. But you're like, this is a woman that was an ice dancer, not
her talent is as a mastermind. It's not being a technical
person. Yeah.
Yeah. So I could see her. Listen, I could see the Eteri dance school, right? Like, I mean, come on, like, who's to say it's with singles? So,
right.
With whatever she does next. I mean, she's a pair coach now. She can do it all, right?
Yeah. Just ask her. Yeah. Okay.
And I think Luna Hendricks also going to be on Art on Ice. I want to see her really have a moment at Europeans and skate up because she had a difficult outing at the final.
Yeah, and really just looking at the rest of the ladies roster, it's not the strongest of fields. Where we do have the depth with the Italians and the French in the men's discipline, and you never know where Dennis will fit in. But this does seem a bit of a lessened field.
And there was, and we're going to see in the dance event that Lila and Lewis and the Italians there. So I definitely want to see how Lila and Lewis can stack up and what kind of momentum they're going to do. I have to say, they're one of the teams I'm most excited for next season. The ISU is discussing doing an 80s theme, which I think could go so wrong or so right. I mean, I love 80s music. I think there's a lot of
team it could go, yeah.
There's a lot of great choices that we don't think of as like non-stereotypical like pieces that you could go. I mean, obviously, people are going to be like Madonna. People are going to go to the obvious Janet Jackson.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great stuff that people could do, and then they. I at least appreciate that Ice Dance is trying to make it audience friendly, right? For you think of like 80s music at a Montreal Worlds, that could actually work pretty well. And I do think that the Marie France Dance School would benefit.
Yes.
Yes, that they're the right, they have the right packaging, they have the right.
And they would know the right pieces to go with. Even there was that year when everyone was doing, so they sort of were doing that a couple seasons ago. And the selections were good. They were varied. They weren't all just like the main staples that you would think of. I mean, technically, they wrote opera in the 1980s too. You could do a nice Nixon in China motif.
Okay, all right. I was watching opera last week. My friends have that, Met app, and I.
Oh yeah, the streaming on demand thing. Yeah.
I was watching some opera that's like set in Scotland, but they updated it from the 1800s to the
Lucia.
I was watching this redheaded girl who's really good and covered in blood at the end. I felt like Jonathan Byer.
Yeah, I've been in that, but where she murders her husband right after.
Yeah, and my good friend Reed loves the Philip Glass opera that doesn't really have a plot. It's like vignettes and.
Is it Akhenaten or Satyagraha?
Yeah, Akhenaten. It looks kind of like a Madison Chalk.
Yes.
Vibe. Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, not just a hat rack. Okay.
Again, Philip Glass was writing a lot of music in the 80s, but of course they're going to go with a dance rhythm that has to be present. But Nixon in China has that.
I think Olivia Smart could come back with a Tina Turner typical male moment.
Yes.
Okay.
She's simply the best. Yeah. Okay.
Listen, I think that they're going to have to. I heard that her new partner is a little bit. He's got a lot of personality, is what I've heard.
Beats the alternative for ice dance, actually.
Becoming the queen of dancing on ice. Like Mark Henready is going to have to look over his shoulder. I mean, they did skate together in the pro dance, and she's with Niall Wilson, the gymnast who has the huge YouTube channel, and they're doing vlogs every week.
I didn't know where that was going.
This is a great opportunity for her. Listen, she's a star. I would put her on other UK reality. She's just so natural, and she's British. Shit.
Yeah, she was great in the confessionals, and because you were sending me some clips. She was great in the program. Like, he seems fun. They seem to, it's a real moment for her.
Marie France is going to have to make it worth her while to come back to that dance school. But listen, she is shining on Dancing on Ice. That queen. Okay, I mean, I don't know. And that her mother looks like she could be her sister. Oh yeah, it's a real situation with this.
Okay.
So
depth to that story. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And listen, she's not relying on skating for money, allegedly. I mean, it's not a Lila Fear situation, but I think they're comfortable.
Remind me, they are representing Spain.
They're going to represent Spain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would make, if the Russians are absent again, although obviously they're weaker in dance at the moment. Who did you talk about in As the Blade Turns? Was that Bobrova? That was like, well, Russian ice dance is a disaster anyway, so maybe it'll help them get better in the meantime.
Yeah. I heard that Annabelle is trying out with a partner in Russia, but she has French citizenship if they keep this out, right? Hudarbedieva and Annabelle's old partner, they broke up, the one that she was dancing to Cardi B with, David, because he has a girlfriend in dance. This is very Lobachova and Averbuk, right? When Averbuk split up with Marina Anisina, who went on to beat him at the Olympics in 2002.
Rightly so, yeah.
Right. So he left, and he's with Hudarbedieva's coach, who does not get along with Irina Zhuk and Svinin, and they trade students all the time. So they're now trying to find Annabelle a partner. I mean, it's a mess. But your Krylova pair, they are doing better. But the ice dance is so bad in Russia that they only had them perform as a warm-up act.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that bad that the Russians are like,
Yeah.
You know what I like about Russia? You know what I like about Russian skating? They're so tactful. I think that they would bring back the hook on the ice or like a gong, like I really do think.
And Tarasova gets to ring it from the booth. Yeah, she's gonna.
The next time that we have the men's event, I think we just need a big gong,
Yeah.
or we could just hold the hook off, like when Samarin skates, like
That's
get a
right.
big old net, Oh my,
that was a tough one.
It'll be great for the I think it would be spectacular.
Vaudevillian drama. Yeah, that would be great.
Well, what was your moment of the week? Also, there's going to be this national sports festival. We will see Cowrie one more time because at the Universiade, I stayed up to watch her. I was ready for this free skate. She was jet lagged and it was not the moment she was hoping for. Yeah. Oddly, she did the triple. She did the double axel, triple toe. It was the triple sow and the triple loop that were just unnecessary and uncalled for.
An uncalled for amazing reference. Yes.
That is a reference from Dick Button, Michelle Kwan, 1997
Nationals. Oh my God, I have on the back of the shirt.
Another Dick Button moment that we've been joking about at TSL Live. That's in the next Dick Button montage that I make is Nicole Bobek, 1994 Goodwill Games free skate. She went to this competition for the appearance fee. The Scottfolds didn't want her to go, so she left them because Evie told her, no, you're not doing this competition. And Dick Button spends her entire free skate talking about why Evie was right. And he goes, she's out of shape and out of sorts. But I mean, you think what he said about Nikodinov was bad at the Nationals. He's like,
but that
Peggy goes,
understood what he was meaning. But yes, this Nicole comment I was unfamiliar with. Okay.
Go rewatch it. It's like 2.5 minutes of vicious Peggy and Dick. Peggy goes, the off season is a time when skaters will work on new elements. And Dick goes, and maybe they're old elements.
He was, I mean, what's so funny? When I was like a kid, like watching that era, I was always a little irritated by him. And now with time, I realize how camp and brilliant and right on the money and just had the cojones to say it every time. Because I remember also when she did the Evita program, and he was like, this looks like it was just like slapped together with very little thought or talent. Or I don't remember how he worded it, but he was right.
Skate America, yes.
Yeah, he was correct. And as we were talking about with the Canadian Nationals, when everything is just so lovely, then it's like, well, why is everyone in different places with drastically different scores if everyone was just lovely? He needed to say like, what you are seeing is not good. So that when the next person comes out and they are good, you understand the difference. Modeling critical thinking. Yeah.
I will have to say, Tarasova, if you watch the last 3 layers, how many times did she say Stilina when they were skating? Like
often on a delay. I was like, honey, she did that like 10 seconds ago. Yeah.
Sometimes I felt like she was like performing her emotions a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Very ice dance. Yeah. That's why I thought it was funny when Elena was like, well, she's nicer than Dick Button. And because it was so funny that you asked that question, because as I was watching it, I was like, I wish I knew exactly what she was saying, because I have a feeling she is still acting that role of Dick Button right now in the world. Yeah, I would think it's very similar.
She's no Ted Hart. Okay. Right, I mean, she just tell Dmitry Aliev that he can't skate like this. So that's.
And she's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Look, who's more vicious than her in the comments is Irina Rodnina. And Tarasova and Rodnina was her student and they don't get along at all. And when they call Rodnina for comment, she's like, I don't care about the first Channel Cup. She often gives a quote, even though she's like, I don't know who that person is, but let me tell you what I think about this.
But that's why I think, what do you call it? The
Russian gaslighting committee?
Yes. It's interesting who they've collected, because again, I feel like it would be if Christine Brennan was calling Janet Lynn for a quote about Amber Glenn's triple axel. Do you know what I mean?
Janet would tell us about how we should bring back the figures. And I think that would be a great, I tried to do that version of it with Jason and then he wound up coming back, but the fans, like, it was almost too real for like skating. Like they can't.
Yeah, they didn't understand the satire in it. Yeah.
Maybe they have to watch more As the Blade Turns, but the one coach who always kind of gives it to you straight, no matter what, is Ina Goncharenko, who coached Radionova.
Right.
He's the one who really gives you the intelligent, thought out, like not really a lot of bluster to it. She'll be like, Petr Gumenik is the best man skater in Russia. Of course, Diana and Gleb are going to change citizenships. This has been obvious, right? Like, she's the one that like really gives it to you.
Cuts through it all. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a star of the. And Wojciechowska, when she gives her opinion, I mean, it's like, whoo, you think Christine Brennan is?
Yeah.
Like, Wojciechowska is, but you know who needs to be in the gaslighting committee? Zhenya Medvedeva. You know she has opinions. They're calling Radionova all the time.
But don't you think Zhenya's smart enough to avoid that at the moment? Because she doesn't know who she's going to need later. So she's just kind of letting that play out.
Not desperate. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
She has some like sponsorship to be like an ambassador to the Russian soccer club, like the football club, Dynamo. Like she's like, I think they pay her to like make appearances at the games. And I don't know.
Wow. Okay. She's hitting up the soccer scene, and Sherbakova is just going to the bank, or whatever that commercial was. Yeah.
I miss Sherbakova here. You know, she does TV work.
I wonder why she wasn't in, because I thought, you know, even with the Valyeva thing, I don't know if they're just, again, if she's the hot name that the public remembers at the moment, but not their gold medalist Sherbakova. But then I thought, at least then you have like a gold medalist and a gold medalist.
Let's be honest, Valyeva was supposed to be the gold medalist, and they just treat her like
as if she was. That's exactly right. Yeah.
You know what? I missed the AAA. I missed Sherbakova, or what do they call them in Russia?
A nice conglomerate. Okay.
I missed Trusova, Sherbakova, and Kosternaya. I mean, Kosternaya is in Cuba. Trusova is in Dubai. Apparently, Dubai is like super Russian right now. And where was Anna Sherbakova? We missed her. But the other Trusova had a little controversy. She's mid-event was like, I'm going to go sign autographs outside. And they had to, like, the Moscow police had to, like, stop it because it was getting mayhem, you know?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, again, I don't know whatever that rift was or is with Channel 1, but it does seem interesting that she was literally in the stands with Mark, and they would show them on occasion, but that they had no other...
Who was the one that was making out with his girlfriend in the audience?
At Cup of Russia. I still have those clips. Yeah, because it was two things. Elaine Chartrand was having a rough skate that day, and they were showing these outrageous responses from the crowd in the slow-mo replay. And then
slow-mo of the guy in the glasses who was like... And
then there was one girl that just kept being like,
And then all the girls were crying. Remember? Radionova, like this one.
And then they would just pan to Kovtun making out with his girlfriend, and then be mortified that was now being cast on a jumbotron.
Weren't like Caitlin Weaver and Stolbova like hanging out at that competition? Was that a different one that they were?
Oh, well, the camera didn't catch them. I'd have watched that. Yeah.
And they didn't show not like that. I'm not saying that they was like, you know, they were like kind of like Rizzo and the Pink Ladies, you know, hanging out.
Okay.
Weaver's got more of a Frenchy vibe than
got it.
Stolbova was more Rizzo, but you know, yeah. What was your moment of the week?
Gosh, let me think here. I'm going to say, and this is going to be a goofy one. Well, I always think Petr Gumenik, even here, is struggling. I just love watching him. So he's always up for it. I'm going to say it was nice to see that new pair. That, again, I know I'm late to the party, as they had competed at the Dennis 10 competition and they competed at nationals. But for me to see a new pair that showed such promise was very exciting. So I would say my personal introduction to them was my moment of the week.
I'm going to say Tuktamysheva's free skate.
Oh, of course, that should be the moment of the week. Of course.
I felt emotional. I felt things. I don't know. She does that spiral like she's Michelle Kwan. I mean, she didn't hold it as long as I wanted to this time. She was better at the actions, but she was feeling it. She was feeling it, and then inevitably you do as well watching, even through a TV screen. Yeah. So I just wish they didn't have those like few notes of like Danny G come in at the end of the piano where it felt the da da da. Yeah. Even when they love that picture-in-picture thing where they usually show the coaches and now they're just showing the team. And I loved it when Aliev was finally skating clean and doing those three quads. And then Trenkov thought he was funny and tried doing like the waltz with Valyeva, who did not want to be touched by him, but he was doing it anyway. And Boikova finally like put her hand on his head and pushed him down because she was watching the skating and they were in her way. So that was also a good moment for me. Yeah, I think Yagudin seemed less obnoxious than Trenkov this week. So that was, you know, I don't know if that's points for Yagunin or side-eye to Trenkov.
Or extra minus points for Trenkov. In general, listen, I don't know them personally at all, obviously, but it just seemed the skaters weren't really needing their presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Holding edges looks sexy.